It's hard to believe this kind of atrocity can occur in this day and age. A young woman killed in Iran after being arrested for wearing her hijab too loosely. You heard that correct. It's understandably caused global outrage. Thousands are protesting, including in Iran itself, which is incredibly brave. Women are removing their headscarves, a crime over there, in complete defiance. All over the world, including here in Australia.
We don't want an Islamic Republic.
We don't want an Islamic Republic.
We want democracy.
We want democracy.
The overarching response is one of absolute condemnation. Solicitor Artoniss Ehsani is leading the charge here locally and joins me now. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's a privilege to be here.
How angry were you when you heard this news? And secondly, were you surprised by it?
Well, that's a really good question because you're not surprised. And so on one hand, you're not angry. You're just kind of like, oh, this is a Tuesday, you know? And so, because we just see examples of this happening all the time. So for us, it's just another unfortunate incident.
You're first generation Australian, so your dad moved here, I think, 30 years ago,
yes,
is that right?
He did,
31
yes.
years ago, you're 25,
yes.
a lawyer, yes. What did they tell you about life in Iran? What is it like for women?
Well, you know, obviously lots of different stories from the diaspora as well, and every person's story is so different. But from my parents' perspective, you know, after the revolution, things just started to get kind of more and more restrictive, you know, having to put the hijab on, becoming more, where have to be dressed more modestly and covered up and things like that. If you're obviously against the regime, you were going to be in a lot of trouble and, you know, probably going to be targeted, arrested, like my father was. So, you know, every person's experience is so different, but also quite similar at the same time.
I asked you before the show started, when I met you outside behind the studio, I said, have you been back? And you said, no, we can't go back. And your father said the same. Why is that?
Well, you know, my family and myself have already been really kind of politically active in Australia ever since I was a child as well. And so a lot of the people that know me know that I'm constantly posting on social media and things like that whenever something happens. And so, you know, you don't know who's watching you and you don't know who's seeing your social media. And so because we are against the regime, who knows what would happen to us if we go back. And so it's just probably not a great idea for our own safety to unfortunately go back. It's a shame. I'd love to go and see my own country, but something that won't happen.
I think a little earlier the president's come out and said that he will take action, and there are mass protests over there, and as I said in my introduction, it's incredibly brave because it is against the law to even remove your headscarf. Do you have any faith that any of the outrage around the world now, the domestic condemnation that's occurring within Iran, will make any difference at all?
Well, I think that this particular instance is quite special in a sense that this is the first time that we've seen this become like being heard on a global scale. You know, you've seen people on Instagram, social media, you know, influencers, YouTubers, all sorts of people that I never thought would speak about this, and they did. And whether or not that would enact some change, unfortunately, I'm not sure if it'll be overnight. It's something that's kind of gradual. I always think of it as a slow revolution. But what this would do is kind of help the Iranian people and to motivate them to sort of keep going and to keep fighting, that for them to know that we are behind them and watching them and, you know, wishing them the best and all sorts of.
Can you give me an indication of what percentage of the population is against the regime that's currently in power? Do you believe most are? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think certainly most are. You know, it just grows every day. After, you know, it's been more than 40 years of the Islamic regime in power, and every day they're just getting more and more fed up, you know, especially after COVID and how the economy collapsed and things like that. The community there, the Iranian community there, is really starting to suffer and getting really, really tired of it. So, you know, I couldn't even put a number. It's not something I could put a number on. Just.
What's the best possible outcome to come out of these protests now? What's the best you can hope for?
Awareness, a lot of awareness. And, you know, we've seen it happen already, and that's so fantastic. I've already seen that type of evidence come through of how everyone's talking about it. So that's incredible. But really, our biggest aim, particularly in Australia as well, is to provide awareness, spread awareness. And that's really all we could do from here as well.
Okay, well, you've gone a long way in doing that tonight. We thank you so much for joining us
Thank
here.
you so much. Thank you very
Really
much.
appreciate it. We'll chat to you
Thank
soon.
you.
We'll keep up to date with what you're doing.
Thanks.